We don't play one-dimensionally, we play the best way to win the game. Whatever strategy we use, whether it's split pushing or team fighting or whatever, it will be the best thing to beat Team Liquid with.
Oh no, there's definitely nothing I'd be afraid of for CLG.
We're just gonna try our hardest and play as a team and come out on top.
I don't really care how many games we drop. The end result is gonna be us winning.
Welcome to the North American Spring Playoffs as the 4 remaining teams face off in our semifinal showdowns with 2 spots in the finals waiting to be claimed. The playoff race heats up with 2 spots in the finals hanging in the balance this week. Now the crowds are hyped up and under Soraka's steadfast leadership stormed into the battle arena to cheer on our team today. Here's Liquid heading into the studio just a short time ago and looking to continue their impressive playoff run. They're going up against our reigning champion CLG, who took a break out of their warm-ups to commemorate the day. Hello, everyone. I'm James Dash Patterson. Today's analyst desk squatters are Isaac Zale Cummings Bentley, David Freak Turley, and for the pros perspective, we have the one, the only Kiwi Kid. So first of all, welcome, gentlemen. Good afternoon.
Yes,
since
indeed.
we had such a crazy 5-game series over in Europe to lead into this one, almost 2 o'clock already. First, I wanted to get you guys' initial and quick thoughts on that series that we just watched over in EU.
I've got to say, I'm really impressed with Origin. I think that Sven came up big, especially for the team. Protect the AD carry comps work so well for those guys. He's absolutely incredible.
Yeah, along with the fact that we had XPK sub in for a game, got that victory. So it's nice to see a team utilize the sub roster to great effect.
I mean, it's MVP XPK, right? Just like, look, just, you know, go 1-0, best record of any player,
right.
and then bench yourself because you know PoE can bring it home. I mean, just clairvoyant leadership, obviously.
Yep, there you have it.
He looked a little rusty, but I think it was just to show power. You will just inspire him. Like, look, we're waiting with this team. Yeah, exactly. So
you're twice as good as I am. This one's free.
And he had a great game 5. So yeah.
Alrighty, well, as we have Kiwi Kid on the desk with us, he is the longest active LCS player and has started in every regular season game to date. So today, we want you at home to share your favorite Kiwi Kid moments with us. Hit us up on Twitter by writing @LolEsports with the hashtag NALCS, and we'll check out a few later in the day. Diving into today's action, though, let's start with a look at how the bracket is shaping up. TSM took down Cloud9, while on the other side of the bracket, Liquid made a clean sweep of Energy. Now, with dynamic seeding, the lowest seeded team, TSM, will advance and face our #1 seed, Immortals. That leaves Liquid to face off against our defending champions, CounterLogic Gaming, in today's semifinals. Now, while Cloud9 and Energy are eliminated, they did secure 10 championship points, which they'll be cashing in later for a shot to represent the North American LCS at Worlds this year. Now, zeroing in on today's series, though, CounterLogic Gaming, well, they are the defending champions. We know that much. And even though Immortals have been the talk of the league this split, CLG say they've got the teamwork to keep their championship title.
At the beginning of the season, everyone kind of just thought that we weren't going to be that good of a team because some of our star players left. Honestly, if anything, we were the same, if not better, with more room to grow because of how we look to improve our team. When you play a team game, every single player on your team is important. People will only see the score lines or they'll see like the big flashing plays, but they won't really see what goes on every minute of the game that requires all the setup for us to win.
One of the mindset that I like to have before going into game is I tell myself that I don't need to carry to win the game.
Gold card finds Keith. He's knocked down and locked down.
I've always been trying to think of what can I do to help my team? What can I do to work better with my team? Because it's not a 1v1 game. It's not I want to 1v1 their top laner and win. I love having those 1v1 fights. I love winning those. But what I love even more than that is winning. And that's as a team. That's not as an individual. It all starts with having a common goal and having everyone understand what it takes to win.
Even though we're defending champions, we're going to take step by step, so we're going to focus on semifinals.
I think everyone's gonna say we're one-dimensional, but I think split pushing is a lot harder than just grouping up and team fighting. they just see us split pushing and assume that like that's the only thing we're doing. But a lot of times we're using that to set up for something else.
Darshan in the middle of the pit. This could be a slaughter. CLG chasing down.
I'm pretty confident we can beat Team Liquid, especially if our next 3 days of training before this go well. We're just going to do everything we can to make sure we can win.
It's the next 3 days practice, as Darshan said. We're going to like prepare really hard versus Team Liquid, and then just be ready to crush them.
Well, now with the players' thoughts in mind, let's jump into today's semifinal showdown. Counter Logic Gaming versus Team Liquid. For CLG, we've speculated throughout the year so far and talked about whether or not they are going to be able to get through Immortals, but now they find themselves in a challenge that wasn't immediately obvious. They're going to have to face off against Team Liquid, who in this playoff run has looked quite dominant.
Yeah, I mean, I think Liquid really surprised a lot of people with just how good they looked against NRG. They surprised me. You know, they had been looking strong towards the end of the split, but they came out looking completely dominant. Dardoch was a monster, and Piglet and Matt, you can't say enough about them.
Right, let's talk about Piglet and Matt. I mean, Kiwi, you obviously have experience playing against this duo lane. You know, points of strength and weaknesses for these guys.
These guys are probably the most solid duo in LCS right now. I think their laning phase is really good, and they know when to play safe when Dardoch wants to help out Lorlo top. Like, I think the communication is really strong as a team, and that actually really helps the bottom lane because they know what they need to do. And sometimes it might seem like they're playing passive, but they have a plan.
We see some statistics comparisons between Stixxay and Piglet. I mean, Freak, we've looked at Piglet as being a rock and just a picture of consistency through this season, even when they were going through the roster swaps.
Exactly. Even when Liquid sucked in the first half of the year, like Piglet was still showing up as a clearly dominant player. And keep in mind, like Piglet's team has done objectively worse than Stixxay's team. Stixxay's scores are worse almost down the line, despite getting more wins overall. And this is what happens when you have a rookie player, right? Like he has to learn more about the game. He's mechanically sound. He plays well. In fact, his laning stats are still good. He's a lane dominant player, even with being a rookie. Some of that you can attribute to just being with Aframu, who's maybe the best support in NA, but just the fact that, look, he's said it, his teammates have said it, Stixxay has a lot of things to learn, which means he's going to have random downtimes where he's not in the right place at the right time. Whereas Piglet, consistently amazing.
Right, so that's an area in which Team Liquid might have the edge in the bottom lane. Let's hop up to the top lane, though, where it might swing the other way. We've got Darshan going up against Lorlo. Lorlo struggled a little bit against Impact, even with their pretty dominating wins over Energy.
Yeah, I think that Lorlo is really solid, but when we look at how Impact played against him, Impact was massively ahead in the final 2 games. You know, he was up double his CS on Gnar. He was up 2 to 3 levels both those games, usually with CS advantage. And when you have a player like Darshan who likes to play those snowball carry type champions, if you get that kind of lead, the game can be over.
Right, I think then the question, though, is how the meta shift is going to affect both of these players. As has been discovered, we've got a lot more tank prevalence in the top lane. Fiora has kind of fallen to the wayside. I mean, Jax, I guess, is still on the table because you never would have considered him to be on the table.
Yeah, certainly Darshan's unique, but even with Jax, like that was Titanic Hydra Jax, which got nerfed. All right, in the last little while, Styrix Gage got nerfed sometime in the last month and a half as well, and so Darshan, while he wants to be this super hardcore top lane split pusher, we're kind of running out of like really strong top lane split pushers. And it sort of begs the question, like, if you want to play this style, you have to pick the best champions available for the style. And the best champions aren't as good anymore. Like, Gangplank's still around, Ryze is around, but doesn't kill turrets that well. We've actually seen Fiora played a little bit, like one game in the last couple of weeks. Like, there are tools, just I wonder how sharp those tools are, whereas Lorlo's like happy to play Echo every single game and do really well on it.
Right, so then, Kiwi, talk to me a bit about the stylistic mismatch that we have between these teams. It's been mentioned, and we even heard it in the opening video. The CLG players themselves know that there's this stigma of being a one-dimensional team, the 1-3-1 split push against the likes of Team Liquid, who has very much come together and been a team-fighting team. What do you perceive as being the major differences between them?
Yeah, you never really know with Darshan. I'd say he's probably the X factor between not only CLG, but the whole matchup itself. It's really up to what he wants to play. Like I think CLG really plays around Darshan, and he's really prideful. He prides himself on just being able to play everything, not just split pushers. So I think it kind of hurts him when we just say he can only split push, or whenever people say that. So I'm actually thinking they might start out kind of standardish, the kind of meta, the tank support, tank top, and like, a damaged jungler. But if they ever lose, I'm pretty sure he's going to pull out something crazy, or maybe it's just going to be Rise or something.
I mean, given the fact that we've pinpointed an area of, or we've pinpointed mismatches for both of these teams, Azale, how do you see the early games playing out? Are we expecting lane swaps or standard lanes? Because it seems like both teams would like standard lanes, but for different lanes.
Yeah. I think that if you're TL, you're happy to go into that 2v2, and I think if you're Darshan, you're pretty happy to go into the 1v1 as well. You know, try to get the advantage in that lane. So I think that both teams are very confident. I could see it going either way. And the thing with CLG to note is that this is not a bot lane that's going to get smashed. They're fine playing safe. You know, Afro can roam. We could see Stixay on a champion like Ezreal, where he knows how to play safe, to farm up. And even if they lose a lane a little bit, if they can get advantages on the other side of the map, it's going to be fine.
All right, and then, of course, we haven't talked about the jungle at all, Freak, but Dardoch up against Moon, I mean, that was one of the biggest discrepancies, right? But then you pull in Xmithy, and we heard Scar say it on the desk last week that he thinks Xmithy is criminally underrated as a player and as a jungler. I mean, I like to think that in this matchup, we're going to see a much closer jungle matchup, and a lot of the game could hinge on the way that these two guys match up.
Yeah, I think there's no chance this game looks like what Energy TL did. Like, Xmithy is leagues above Moon, and I think Xmithy is very close to Dardoch in terms of individual skill. They fulfill somewhat different purposes. Like, they both farm a lot, they both get a whole lot of gold, but, like, Dardoch wants to, like, actually just 1v1 4 people in a row by just being Lee Sin and buying a Ravenous Hydra. But Xmithy,
and I'm okay with that.
I mean, it's fun to watch.
Yeah, I wouldn't watch that.
Dustblade first, please.
So go for it. We'd love to watch all the footage afterwards. But, yeah, Xmithy, like, he's a big ward bot. Like, he's going to play to a certain side of the map if he has to. Like, he does a lot, and Dardoch gives him a lot of respect as well. There's actually a great interview the Score did with both of them. It was like a minute and a half long with Dardoch just so, like, yeah, Xmithy does a whole lot of really good things. He's really smart. He's, like, the only jungler that plays this way. But I'm going to smash him much better than him overall. Yeah. And like that's his line as Dardoch. He's kind of talking about Xmithy. He's good, but I'm going to smash him. Yeah. And I think while there's a small difference in skill, like it's close.
Right. Both teams definitely going to be coming in with a lot of confidence. Let's close out the lane since we've talked about them all. Real quick hit on the mid laners. We have Huhi versus Phoenix. Yep. Phoenix we've touted as being this like incredible team fight mid laner. He just shows up, he does his job, he's got huge statistics. Huhi seems to be a little bit more hit or miss. Kiwi. What's your opinion on him as a player specifically?
On Huhi, he still has, I think, a lot to prove. He does pretty well sometimes, but most of the time, I don't think he puts much like the beam on him.
Right.
He just kind of like passes by, but no, I don't think he's gonna get run over. But Phoenix, man, he's just too good.
Yeah, I mean, the odds are maybe set against him in the mid lane, which means he does have a lot to prove if CLG is going to move on to the finals and defend their title. Moment of truth here, fellas. I got to ask you, which of these two teams is moving on to the finals? And Kiwi, I'm going to start with you.
TL. Most likely. But I think it's going to be close.
You going to give me games? What do we think here?
TL.
With 3-2, 3-1, 3-2. All right, we're going to 5 games. That's what I like to hear.
All right.
Yeah,
what about you?
I actually was agonizing over this, who I thought was going to win. I mean, I think it's exceptionally close. I think it's going to be CLG 3-2.
Okay.
I think it could go either way, but I really do have faith in Aframu. I have faith in Darshan, and I think Xmithy is more than solid enough to be up to the task.
All right, the tiebreaker, Freak, give it to me.
Yeah, I think it's Liquid. I think Liquid are moderate to clear favorites. I'll say 3-1 is the number here. To me, I need to get surprised by what Darshan can do.
Right.
Like, I want to know what's in the lab for the last 3.5 weeks, like what's coming out here. But like, unless there's something like really spicy, really special, I just feel like Lorlo withstands, and then just like everyone else is just too good.
Right. Well, I know Kiwi agrees with you. Said that he'll be the X factor in this game. There you have it. The thoughts from the gentleman here at the desk. We're going to kick it over to our casters to get the games underway.
Thank you very much, Dash. Hello, everyone. I'm motorcycle enthusiast Rivington Bison III, and joining my biker gang, Rivs Angels, are Aiden Zyrie Moon and Joshua Jat Leesman, better known as A-Chaps and Iron Butt.
I've never been in the biker gang until today.
Yeah, basically, you make a bad Reddit comment about Riv, you make a bad Reddit comment about all of us.
Break out the chain. Well, as we get ready to ride onto the Rift, we do have to start with a quick roster rundown, so let's get to it. On the blue side, it is Counter, Logic Gaming, Darshan in the top lane, Xmithy in the jungle, Huhi in mid, Stixay 80 carry, and Aframu at support with Coach 6.
Yeah, as we saw, only Azale picked CLG here. It'll be tricky. On the red side, we have Liquid. We got Lorlo up in the top lane. We have Dardoch in the jungle. Phoenix will be their mid laner. Pick up the 80 carry. Matt the support. And Loco Doco, the coach, who's really brought them all together throughout this split. They had that weak start, they had some roster changes early, but now they're really looking like a cohesive, strong team.
Exactly. And looking at Loco Doco, this guy has made 3 finals, won 2 of them. He's looking for his 4th final with a different squad, and he's had to train up 3 rookies. So it's been a tall task this entire season for TL, but they made it to the semis.
It's going to be a long road ahead as well for both of these teams. There's still many things they want to achieve, and we already heard Liquid saying this part's a stepping stone, but more so CLG is a stepping stone, and that's a pretty big statement to make coming into this game.
Yeah, I mean, we know that Team Liquid has been the most confident 4 seed coming into the playoffs we've seen in a while.
True.
Although Origin over in the European LCS seems pretty confident as well, as they just qualified for the finals in 5 games against H2K. But maybe we're a little bit swayed by how heavily Team Liquid beat Energy in the quarterfinals, whereas CLG, they were substantially the higher seed in the regular season, a very strong record throughout all of it.
Yeah, last time the 2 teams met, though, it did go TL's way, and it was 1-1 throughout the split. And both these teams were looking up and up in the second half of the season. So coming into today, it looks like they're close to full power.
Yeah, that's an interesting ban we see right at the end of Trist from Team Liquid. Trist is a champion who saw sparing play very early in the season, but has pretty much had none of it since then. It could have just been a throwaway ban because Team Liquid wants to power pick a few things on the backside.
Well, this leaves a whole lot up. You leave up Kindred, Echo, Rise, things that are highly prioritized right now on this 6.6 patch, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's a very early Echo that TL goes with.
Because one of the big questions we've had is, what is Darshan going to play in the top lane? I think there are a lot of powerful top lane picks that can be split pushers as well as tanks and just kind of do both. But the S tier of that is Echo. And the fact that there were 2 junglers you could have potentially played with a Nidalee and a Kindred that you could trade backwards, I'm surprised CLG did not first pick that Echo.
Yeah, I'm also a little surprised that Poppy is still on the table as well, right? That's a champion that we saw banned away a whole bunch. But
Karma and Kindred, the first 2 lock-ins here. We saw Kindred being quite used in the promotion tournament and in other regions still, but for Dardoch to lock that in first with, as you said, so many other things on.
Yeah, it's interesting too because they're definitely not going for the power picks, and they may even be daring Darshan to pick Echo top lane. And this Karma can also flex between mid lane or support, so Team Liquid is looking very heavy in the counter pick direction, as well as having targeted bans, which is actually not that normal of a strategy, but it's also not normal playing against CLG because they have had very unique champion selects throughout the regular season.
Exactly, and when you look at that Karma coming through and you talk about unique champion selects, Matt played it 1 time in that final game up against Energy, but they went on record saying, hey, we didn't have to show anything, but we decided to show something. So that could be part of the mind game here coming in. Where's that Karma going to go? They actually don't know for sure.
Comfort and Callista locked in for Stixxay now. The Echo does get picked up. So they will have that in the top lane for Darshan. He can go hard. He can control the lane. He says there's more to the split push. See if it's what they come to.
I think the Echo is an absolute steal here.
Right.
Especially if they're going to be throwing Karma as a support and not having a support Trundle to shred the magic resist. There's still a chance that Team Liquid could do that swap, and there's also still a chance that Echo goes mid lane, because we've seen a tank Echo mid lane both in the promotion tournament in NA and also in the LCK.
And I really like this counter pick here with the Caitlyn. We saw the Callista come through. Caitlyn immediately. Caitlyn Karma is the solo queue, chunk you out, win that lane. It's very impressive.
Yeah, so that kind of signals to me that Team Liquid is going to be looking to match lanes whenever possible, which is a tall task against CLG, but that is what their champion select shows, Zareen.
A lot of people have different says on what can happen if these bottom lanes match up. We are trying to see that Team Liquid counters that. They want the aggression in this one. We'll see if Stixxay and Alpha will give it to him as the game starts. Still in picks and bans. The Rise John a fast switch as they lock it in.
Yep, so it's going to be Echo mid lane. It could obviously be AP, but I'd expect it to be tank, or it could be the Rise mid lane. It's actually swappable up until the last minute, which makes the counter pick incredibly hard for last pick Liquid. I think that's clever by CLG, and yeah, it could be a Rise mid or a Rise top.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly where it's going to go just yet, but with this last pick here for Liquid, you could end up picking Twisted Fate here. You could end up having global pressure over CLG, stop the 1-3-1 that they usually like to do. But CLG overall have a rather low wave clear composition here. It's a little bit of skirmish power with some disengage.
Gonna have to make sure they don't fall behind too far. Wave management could be difficult, as you were saying. And a final pick for Liquid is really what's on their plate. What will it be? LeBlanc seems to be a safe pick for Phoenix in mid, one that he can also make plays on. as he's going up against, as we said, either that Echo or that Rise.
Yeah, obviously Team Liquid isn't able to do the research here, but I got to check the rune pages that the guys have gone with. It, to me, says Rise mid lane, Echo top.
Okay.
I think that's what they're going to end up going with, but they do have the option of switching and also changing rune pages in the last few seconds based on what the LeBlanc pick would be.
But this is Phoenix's first LeBlanc pick of the entire split. We saw him play Zed, the assassin, in the last game against Energy. Now he's going more towards that assassin style. He did have a really good game on it, but he's been known as that high CS per minute mid laner this season.
And I think it's incredibly dangerous too, because champion select-wise, if CLG wants the best lane matchups, it's absolutely putting a tank Echo who can rush a Magic Resist item really in the
they swapped it.
But they swap it back. They didn't change their rune pages whatsoever. That's what they wanted, and I feel like Phoenix actually gets a decently good matchup into Rise.
I heard rumors of this where in scrims people were swapping it back and forth until 20 seconds.
Yeah.
Trying to game you until then. Because now you have to change your rune page if you're up against something like an AD or AP.
Yeah. That's why these guys have 20-plus rune pages that hopefully they prep properly.
You hope they have 20-plus.
Zeeks and Loco making their way off the stage. The teams now, it is up to them, the practice in the extended scrim blocks for these past few weeks. It all comes down to now. We want to know how you think the series is going to play out through the day. Stay connected on Twitter with the hashtag CLGwin or the hashtag TLWin to @LOL Esports, and we'll tally those up as we make our way into game. Ladies and gentlemen, we are hitting the playoffs now. It has already been an intense season that we've gone through, and TL looks to possibly make their way into the finals against defending champs Counterlogic Gaming for what could be the first time. We're into game 1 of the series, and we are on to the Rift.
Yeah, and we look at Team Liquid, 3 players who are in their first playoffs. CLG, also 2 players who are in their first playoffs. Even though Huhi was a substitute on CLG, I still count this as kind of his first experience here. And looking at the overall feel of these team compositions, to me it looks like Team Liquid adjusted a little bit more to CLG than CLG would have adjusted to Liquid. Having the Echo top lane with the option to go tank is very much still going to be CLG having the chance of pressuring all 3 lanes, and it's going to be Team Liquid that are going to be having to keep up with that.
Yeah, and also the fact that it's the double TP for CLG, Huhi and Darshan. The 1-3-1 is a very capable strategy for them, and they can also just split push them down. So CLG get to play the strategy that they like to, and TL is going to have to try to get an early advantage with Phoenix, try to assassinate, and it's definitely a different game plan here. We're seeing it's going to be hard to match.
We did say Liquid kind of wanted the matchup, if it were, in the bottom lane to start this one off, or the top lane if they can find which way to go. Piglet putting himself up forward a little bit to see if CLG may be hanging out at the turret already, but it doesn't look like they'll get any vision out of this one. No real deep wards placed either for that knowledge, so it's going to be a guessing game.
Yeah, and I see almost no situation in which CLG would want to be in an extended laning phase against Piglet and Matt. Even if you just look at the quarterfinals and didn't look at anything in the regular season, which would dictate the same thing, Piglet and Matt will crush that 2v2, especially with these champions. And in that quarterfinal against Energy, there was, in the first game, they took 2 turrets just out of the laning phase. Something CLG is definitely wanting to avoid.
You can see CLG go for the invade here. They find them at Raptors, but they've already taken them and backed off. And Darshan's actually been able to get some CS down there. He's getting solo experience.
Yeah.
He's picking up some, whereas Lorlo was already teamed up with Dardoch doing the double jungle.
Yeah, that's actually a huge amount of experience that Darshan will get. It's that extension of the mind game. A lot of time you have the support going in late to harass the jungler and the top laner, and CLG actually did make a fairly meaningful tweak to that strategy, having Xmithy off on his own and Darshan off on his own, and now he's going to go catch up for that double jungle.
Following the path of Darshan, quite interesting to see how CLG kind of tweaks things from game to game, always being what we know as the team to out-rotate teams in the beginning with how they swap.
Yeah, potentially, if they wanted to just do a straight turret push and then threaten the second turret, they would be way ahead on that because Darshan was getting the wave pushed a little bit to the side of Team Liquid first, but they are also taking this wave a little bit slowly. That's a big stack they have, and it's actually going to be relatively equal.
Yeah, it's going to be very close, except we're going to see the big difference here for me is Dardoch, he gets a mark on the Scuttle Crab on his side of the map, so he's going to have a stack in his favor. He's going to be able to go towards this red buff that hasn't been picked up yet and possibly get that as well.
Yeah, he's also way slower to the counter jungle side, but at the same time, it's not really going to matter, only because Xmithy's not going to go wandering down to that side of the map by himself when there's a potential 4-man collapse. The only way it would matter is if CLG recalls right away and then rushes out the bottom side, because they could technically stop Dardoch from doing Krugs. But I don't think Dardoch cares since he's already level 4.
And you can see that Huhi just walks up to Raptors and awards it. He's actually fairly pushed up. He decided to shove the wave up to try and get vision. And this is going to be a very interesting matchup for me because Phoenix, he's known as that CS guy in the mid lane. Well, he started with the Dark Seal. He's trying to kill him. He has Ignite. He didn't match the TPs. And look at this.
Already a little bit of love.
That's a quality gank. I mean, Dark Seal can be a start just to make your potions more efficient if you don't respect the kill pressure of the other laner, which is true especially with early game Rise. So while you can see it as a bit of a disrespectful thing, there are reasonable reasons to bring it that aren't just like, I'm better than this guy, I'm going to soul steal stack on him.
Oh yeah, it's totally fantastic to actually bring early on. And it synergizes with your potions, it synergizes if you go for a corrupting potion second. So we've seen that happen a lot in the top lane as well now.
Definitely unique though, for that as the first item. You see it very rarely.
Yeah.
Well, 30 CS to 19 in that lane, so Huhi not having flash up to 9 minutes is going to hurt even more for him on that Rise. And it was a good pick by Phoenix to take in the LeBlanc, even though first time for this split.
Right, but at the same time, Huhi could have played Echo into that mid lane and had a favorable matchup.
True.
They've chosen to do this. That's a good start. Maybe they burn a summoner.
That's one way to feel real good about your lane. You go aggressive, and then they counter you. Xmithy trying to go for it.
Oh.
Phoenix on the fast foot, though.
Oh, my God. He doesn't flash. He just knew he was going to dodge the spear. That's how much confidence. Because if that spear lands even after he flashes, Xmithy could get the execute, no problem. Worth since he dodged it, but that was a risky play to not expend flash.
Yeah, and he was already ahead. Phoenix was already ahead in CS and in experience, so now he's just going to have to equalize that and walk back. So it gets Huhi pretty much back on the same foot, but still down that summoner, which we haven't seen exploited just yet. But if Dardoch does make a return visit, it's very hard for this Rise to get out, especially as Phoenix crests that level 6.
Yep. Rookie of the split. It's at 27-17 right now on that Kindred on his skirmishers at Saber, so he's going to be looking to fight quite a bit, obviously.
Yeah, it's going to be an early Rift Herald as well. TL, they love doing early Rift Heralds. They love to pick this buff up every chance that they get and give it to Dardoch and run people down lanes.
Yeah, this is really good for Team Liquid. I think a little bit of this has to come from the mid lane advantage and the jungle advantage that Dardoch has, because I actually feel like it's pretty rare for CLG during the lane swap to lose the Rift Herald and not get something in return. None of the lanes are pushed beyond the middle point, and that is essentially an earned Rift Herald from the lane swap advantage that Team Liquid gets within the first 6 minutes.
So the stacking for Huhi begins. Shouldn't really be putting himself in too bad of a situation with his flash down. Teleport is still up for a possible play to be made. They do have 2 over Liquids, just 1 on Lorlo.
And this is where the game's actually going to get very interesting, because the map has been opened with 4 total turrets going down.
Yep.
And the style of the mid laners is really going to have a large impact here. Phoenix is the type to have a lower kill participation, but a much higher lane presence, whereas Huhi has stated, and it reflects in his stats, that he kind of loses mid lane, but he loves to impact other lanes. He's also brought Teleport on Rise versus Ignite from LeBlanc, so everything is speaking towards that. With an opened map, usually you would see the roaming mid laner have an advantage, unless he can't ever leave due to the kill pressure from Phoenix. And that's actually what it's looking like. Tier against an Ignite LeBlanc, Huhi is never going to be able to look at him and live.
Yeah. He'll try to farm. That's about it for now. He did pick up that CS from the help of the gank in mid.
Yeah, and CLG, they aren't a team that actually just sits on their hands. Look at this. As soon as they saw the 2-on-2 on top, they're just going to move their duo lane to the other side of the map. Put it on the side with Dragon. Put it all the way across. Don't go up against Phoenix and Matt, who have these 2 champions that just try to bully you out of CS and bully you out of the lane. So,
and it's a game of cat and mouse, too, because you can see that Team Liquid is doing the same thing.
Well, they're backing now, too, on the side of CLG.
Yeah. I do also have to credit Huhi for catching back up in CS. He had to burn his flash very early, and then the gank Xmithy bought him enough time to come back. And quite honestly, early tier, no health crystal, in a combat summoner disadvantage, Rise versus LeBlanc. Like, he should be losing that lane, but he's even in CS right now, which is a testament to how he's playing.
Taking the scary road, but he's trying to keep it safe so he can get that item built up.
Really showing up here.
Aggression for Phoenix. Looks like they wanted to start something, but too many members of CounterLogic Gaming are actually on ward clear right now. These lanes opened up very fast, and they can't really find anything of it, but everybody keeps trying. It's not making them hesitate.
And that's one of the things that CLG is really good at, is when they open the map up, Aphromoo, regardless of what support he's playing, even if it's Janna, he roams towards mid lane, he'll roam towards lanes where you don't expect him to be, and that's one of the greatest strengths of this player, is he's kind of erratic in where he shows up. You don't know when you're playing against CLG, is Aphromoo going to be here right now? And you tunnel vision on a kill, and he shows up, and he actually turns the kill around on you. It happens all the time with this player.
And we actually don't know if Darshan's going tank Echo or AP Echo as of yet. He's gone double Doran's Ring into a Sheen, so that could still be an Iceborne Gauntlet into a tank build, or he could be going Lichbane into more AP. We've seen Huni in the LCS before some of the Echo buffs succeed with AP Echo, so it's absolutely a possibility that he goes that route, because it's not like AP Echo got nerfed and Tank Echo got buffed in the last few patches. Both Echoes actually did improve.
Yeah, and there really is not anybody on the team, save when Respite comes out, that he can't pop with that much damage. Nobody's going to be soaking it up. They're going to be deleted immediately. He gets blue, he'll be able to stack up more. That'd be very nice for him in mid. His flash is also back up if they decide to make a play. There has actually been quite a bit of love given here to the mid lane. It's not the first time we've seen Aphromoo back and forth. They decide to back, though, so it looks like things will calm down for now. Little invade by Xmithy, getting some wards down to make sure they have tabs on Dardoch. And Xmithy's actually caught up in farm as well.
And this actually poses an interesting question, because CLG, they get middle turret very early on in most of their games. They usually take it before the enemy. I think it's like 67% of their games they take the first middle turret before the enemy does. And TL, they leave Phoenix on an island. They're used to tower diving with 4 members and leaving Phoenix by himself. TL, they're going to have to adapt a little bit here, because this is a different style from them.
Yeah, well, speaking of stylistic plays, Darshan is in trouble.
Wrapped around there, just walked all the way around.
Yeah, that was actually fairly poor positioning by Darshan. It was also a lapse in ward coverage from CLG. They are the team that has gone Tracker's Knife jungle versus a challenging smite from Dardoch, yet they did not have vision coverage for that Dardoch play. And now, during the regular season, CLG had the highest percentage of first dragons. Looks like they're going to lose it over to Team Liquid.
Yeah, TL, they're going to be able to pick this one up. Dardoch's had really good presence this game, and a lot of why that happened was Darshan's actually been running Lorlo around the map, and he's been clearing the wave, going to the other side. Lorlo froze top side, so they knew that Darshan was no longer going to stay in that top lane. He goes down to the bottom, and then they cut him off as soon as he crosses that halfway point. So that was a setup there from TL to make that play happen.
It's something we see just about every time that play kind of puts itself out there. They just need to take action on it. TL gets that first blood. I'm sure Darshan will think twice about the distance pushed out without those wards this time around. So one opening found by Team Liquid. They push it then into a dragon. We'll see where else they can go with this. They didn't really use that to get any forward wards, so we're still kind of in the same place.
Super good, though, for Dardoch. He's already at 10 stacks of his Devour with 2 marks of Kindred. So he's well on his way to scaling right now. And I know that Dardoch actually doesn't like playing Kindred. He doesn't like playing it, but it's super good. He's like, I'd rather play Lee Sin, I'd rather play Lee Sin into Kindred, so why do I have to pick it? But he's been forced to play, and he's still really good at that champion, though.
Yeah, well, when the team bans Tristana, you leave some of the powerful junglers up. You better be ready to pick that on the backside.
Looks like CLG will be able to get their mitts on the next Rift Herald going down to the map, so probably back to Xmithy, get him power farming through the jungle and get him pretty big here. Still waiting to see what CLG can produce in the way of a teleport play. So far, they've kind of been reactive to what Team Liquid has been doing in the beginning of the map. Hasn't led to too much of a gold lead, just about 700 or 800 in favor of Liquid, but they work well with small gold leads. So it could be dangerous.
Yeah, I think as far as who works best in even games, CLG does work very well in even games. Even though they were the 2nd seed in the NLCS, they only had the 3rd highest gold lead at 15 minutes, whereas Team Liquid were the ones that had also a very high early game rating, but then had the 4th seed. I think a lot of Team Liquid's losses came down to poor mid-game decision-making, whereas a lot of CLG's wins came to very strong mid-game decision-making.
Yeah.
This game, it's probably going to come down to the mid-game since we're only 1,000 gold different 12.5 minutes in.
Yeah, CLG, they're quite good at the rotational game early on, but TL, they're good at the fighting, skirmishing game, and they try to force those opportunities. So late game, TL, they had those problems with decision-making. Matt would pretty much take every fight he could. And that's what they've been working on as rookies, is shoring up those nerves, making sure that they're picking the right fights.
And they also stopped having Matt on initiators. They started putting him on Janna and Karma, and they had fantastic results. They put the big tanky top laner Lorlo and just throw him in with Thardoc, and it's actually worked tremendously well.
It's instantaneous. So, oh man, Huhi.
It's a lot of chains that Phoenix is landing. Every time Phoenix lands a chain, he pushes Huhi off the minion wave, and that usually costs him a couple of CS, so that's grown into about a 14 CS advantage by this point.
CLG has Darshan and I believe Stixay sitting on quite a bit of gold right now, upwards of 1,600, so they're definitely looking to keep it calm. Darshan will back, start filling out those items, Glacial Shroud and a few others. It looks like they may actually try to get something going here. It's been very quiet in the early game as CLG actually wasn't able to get anything but Afromu roaming, Stixay roaming with him.
Oh, changing positions.
Either one of those guys wanted the tango.
Yeah, I was actually looking at the AD carry items here. Piglet went first item, Runan's Hurricane on Caitlyn. He had the Cole and he had the pickaxe. Normally you see BF sword into a Zeal item, but he decides pickaxe, I need to get these headshots in team fights. And that signals to me that they want to group up really soon. It's about maybe 3 minutes from now, 4 minutes from now, because that's the team fight item. That's not the farming item.
Could Runan's not also be used for the wave clear on Caitlyn?
It could be to just push it out.
Because this is such a shoved up game.
Yeah,
and
for Caitlyn,
also Stixay has gone Hurricane.
Yeah, for Caitlyn, it's probably better to do so. Charges up your headshot in the team fights. Static Shiv is what we used to see, but people aren't really buying that too much anymore.
Yeah, a lot of the Caitlyn builds also index very heavily on crit, especially the ones we got to see in the promotion tournament in North America. You would see Infinity Edge and then 2 double Zeal items very frequently.
Minute 30 coming up onto Dragon. Little Darshan wants to hit up Thorlo, but he decides to back. He's just waiting for all the farm. What an even game. Really a lot of respect given from each other.
Yeah, I'm actually a little shocked that we haven't seen Huhi TP to a side lane where Darshan is trying to pick on Lorlo or something, because you can get those deeper wards down the lane. Like right there even, they had a ward in Tribrush. If that ward had been maybe by Krugs or something, then you can definitely make a TP play and get those early kills on Lorlo and exploit them.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of it has to do with the religious swapping we're seeing back and forth. Like Lorlo and Darshan have barely seen each other. It's one, you shove up a lane, you run to the other side. And Darshan is constantly up against Piglet and Matt, and then he has to swap back again. So add that to the fact that for most of the game, Phoenix has had Huhi push into his turret, and there just haven't been many opportunities for CLG to execute that type of game plan.
Wow, so they ended up putting Huhi in the bot side, Phoenix answered, and then the mid lane was just left wide open there for a bit.
Yeah.
It's like, who was going to change first? Oh, okay, TL did. CLG was able to react to it. They had been doing the same thing for quite a while.
Right. It's all about breaking the pattern.
Right.
Because this game had gotten into that pattern of the top lane and bottom lane swapping between the two lanes for so long. And CLG is the first one to change the pattern by sending a lot of people mid lane. Team Liquid was a little bit slow to respond and lost about 2/3 of their turret.
Like you guys were saying, figured those teleports would have come in a little bit earlier. Even with Phoenix or LeBlanc pushing mid, you're not going to take a turret down too quick. But it seems like those openings are somewhat fizzling out here. There are a few deep wards that CLG could use if an engage comes down to it, but they're not looking to really get in the face of Team Liquid at any point in time. It would be a hectic fight for CLG. Mid lane gets a little more love, but it looks like with Echo going back top, Darshan won't be putting that pressure mid, and maybe even Huhi down towards bottom. So it is going to be a charge-up moment here for the next few for CLG.
Well, yeah, you're talking about charge-up moments here. TL, Dardoch is at 25 stacks of Devour at 17 minutes. Dragon's up right now. If they secure this, then he's sated Devour at 17.5 minutes.
We saw
super early.
We saw Proxen do this in the promotion tournament just the other day, and he then wreaked havoc on the entire game. Like, it became pretty disgusting. So Dardoch usually has it in him to make those plays, try to go all-star. He is the least in player, right? So
yeah,
he'll try for it.
I also think the fact that CLG is still sitting at 0 kills 17 minutes in and is down in objectives means that Team Liquid has just been in position to either counter the plays CLG is looking for or just not given CLG opportunities to make these plays. Like, this is a very clean first 17 minutes for Team Liquid because CLG was one of the best teams in the LCS at finding fights pre-15 minutes, and Liquid just hasn't given them.
Yeah, and a lot of that is off of the fact that...
Oh, speaking of which...
Oh, they might turn it.
They can if they want to. There we go.
Good howling game.
Not quite. But yeah, you're talking about how CLG finds all of these advantages in the early game. A lot of the times when they play this dance with other teams, the other team will trip and then they exploit that. TL hasn't tripped this game.
Yeah, the only time they came close is when they gave up all this damage on the mid lane turret, and that's why CLG is returning here to try and push it down. But in the meantime, you've gotten a sated Devour jungler and 2 dragons for Team Liquid, so they're definitely holding the upper hand at this point.
Team Liquid, while holding well, it seems like they're kind of rushing to get this hold down in mid lane at any point. It seems like CLG will have the numbers to take that turret down. But you see Piglet and Matt doing their damnedest to hold it. Matt already upgraded Eye of the Watchers, so he's got a little more AP cooldown to keep wave clearing. And it seems like that turret's time has come. So TL backs. CLG just playing this one methodically until they can finally get it down.
Darshan's on the side here, but Dardoch is as well.
Piglet just makes it out of parallel convergence. Nice step. And they are able to take down the turret. But we've been waiting for one of those to go down for quite some time.
Yeah, and I think another reason that this game has been so low in kills is when you look at the 2 team compositions, neither one of them have surefire ways to initiate. The closest thing CLG has is hope that Darshan lands his parallel convergence, or have Huhi suicide in and get a very short duration route. Team Liquid on the same side, it's like a whole bunch of soft CCs everywhere. If Lorlo gets a wall stun, it's about their best way of initiating. So very good ways of these teams disengaging, not great ways of them actually engaging. So the main fights we'll see would be around, at this point, late game objectives, when we start getting Dragon 4 or 5, or when we start getting Barons.
Man, when they do get a hold of each other, though, it's going to be explosive. And I'm sure the other people will kind of just turn the other cheek and say, okay, that person got burst out.
It'll be explosive, and then Dardoch will put down his ultimate, and he'll slow down for a bit, but then Aphromoo will pop them off.
Yeah, the funny thing is both teams have to opt in, right? Just with the way these 2 team compositions are built. They're both disengaged team compositions. Team Liquid has the LeBlanc poke and the Caitlyn poke, and CLG has the Nidalee poke and the sustain to counter what Team Liquid would do. So they do have counteracting compositions here, and yeah, it's opt-in for both of them if they want to fight.
Yeah, that moment we saw just there, Matt blocking. Matt actually, no, sorry. Smithy. Sorry. Smithy blocking Matt's RQ.
That was a blocked recall.
Yep.
Oh, and TP though, there they go.
The TP was stopped.
Oh, the face call comes out. It's Matt and Phoenix that get hit up. Whoa, they split right at the beginning. That gives Phoenix the distortion to go for Aphromoo.
Huhi from behind.
But they turn off Huhi. He is Rise. That's not the Echo. Just remember, he's going to be out of this one. He's not going to make any huge plays on that. Remember, the route not as long, and they can't get anybody locked down.
All right, our observers were having a premonition. That was a blocked teleport in with an attempted double TP play from CLG. So now, since the double TP didn't work, the initiation wasn't as clean as they would have liked, and we saw the disengage and poor engage in action right there. Nobody dies despite a full double TP attempt flank from CLG. Gives him nothing.
Exactly, but Lorlo now has TP advantage. I'm actually surprised he didn't try to back off and then TP into that fight to try and clean it up with his flash and his E. But it looked like Darshan was just trying to stick it to him, make sure that he could get him with a parallel convergence if he tried to. But it would still be difficult. The cast time on it is quite long.
It was a good trade for TL to turn that one around. They prep mid turret for something that could fall very, very soon here. But CLG puts all their numbers towards mid. And even with low wave clear, they can still stop that. Rods of Ages charging on their side now. You see Xmithy has his, so they'll start to get even bigger. And it looks like it's going to be a pretty big echo still. Iceborne Gauntlet first item, but he is going tanky.
Yeah, he's going tanky, and he is not ahead of Lorlo in the slightest. Lorlo's also been able to go very tanky. Has also gone with the Distortion enchantment, so if they do get into that situation where we're seeing who can TP first, Lorlo will actually have that edge. I'm a pretty big fan of how Team Liquid has been able to neutralize Darshan, but at the same time, this is a 400 gold game.
Yep.
And I feel like at this point, Team Liquid's big win condition is getting Piglet a whole bunch of items and to continue to control Dragon. So with 1 more minute for that next Dragon, and no TP on either CLG person, that's another area Team Liquid can look to extend.
And another thing about those distortion boots from Lorlo, it's something that people don't put a whole lot of value on because they're normally home guarding from the base, but it gives you 3 seconds of 30% movement speed after your TP. And as Poppy, it gives you so much room to reposition and get that wall stun and cause backline havoc.
That extra movement that your opponent is not thinking about is really what it comes down to.
Another mark for Dardoch.
Yeah, that's a tough one to get, too, all the way over in that jungle. But at the time, the map was split in that side for Team Liquid. So that puts him at 4 marks of the Kindred thus far. Their attacks deal 5% of the enemy's current health as bonus physical damage.
I think he's going third item Runance here because he has 4 stacks and he has the Sated Devourer. I just think it's a really good build to actually go forward. Usually you'll see the Moss, Sterix, but Dardoch, we've known him to be this carry, full damage Lee Sin player. So why not? Lorlo's pushing bottom, mid turret goes down. TL, they're splitting the map right now and looking for another drag.
Yeah, they do get the turret, but I do feel like this is where CLG is saying they want to stop the dragon. No, they're not going to do that. Huhi's running top without his teleport. Dragon 3, maybe they try and force the Baron, but with Lorlo still having TP, that's probably not going to be able to be taken down quickly enough.
They do have Blade and they can rend it.
Yeah, they can rend it, so they're getting the stacks up very quickly. Rend will be about 2,000, so if that Baron gets below 2,000, they can secure it. It's at 4,000 right now, and Team Liquid's still not there.
TP in from Lorlo. He wants to eject him. Oh, it's rended on the way out. They say thank you very much and bye-bye. Afro throws himself in to defend the team, and the Howling Gale may even save his tail on this one. He's going to go up and totally deny anything Liquid wants to do here. Kind of a valiant effort in getting Liquid nothing after they get there to the fight, and they're going to already start pushing on the side of CLG as well as they make their way out of the base with Baron.
1 kill for Baron in a Dragon trade is actually not that bad for CLG, and it's these slim margins that this game is going to be decided on. They had just enough time. Matt couldn't quite speed up the team as much as he would have wanted to get them there, and you're absolutely right about that Blade of the Ruined King and Callista, not to mention Ryze being able to take that Baron down very quickly.
True. It was incredibly fast. I don't think TL was expecting to be that fast. Even Lorlo TP'd onto a ward in the mid lane instead of a ward in the pit. Maybe if he had done it in the pit, he would have had an opportunity to get them out sooner.
Yeah.
But he decided to go with the low-risk play. I mean, it's playoffs. It's your first playoffs right now. You don't want to take too many risks, especially in the first game.
Yeah, Aphromoo.
What so many
sacrifices.
So many saves.
Yeah.
As a support, I shed a tear.
He's alive now, and they keep the gold completely close. But at the same time, the win condition at this point for Team Liquid is still going to be that 5th dragon because CLG has not stopped that, and I don't know if they're really in position to leverage an advantage even with Baron buff on 4 people without the ability to actually engage fights.
Yeah, it's just going to be Piglet throwing out these traps.
Piglet can clear this no problem with his build current.
It's actually a Runance Hurricane for Dardoch as well, so double Hurricane. Your wave clear is pretty good actually at that point.
No, it's going to be really hard for CLG to execute anything, really. Not to mention they're all going to have to build the token magic resist item because Phoenix is LeBlanc, and they have already done that, which takes down their offensive potential a little bit.
Yeah, now they go back and forth between top and mid over and over again, and then Darshan stays top, Huhi stays mid, and then the other one TPs to where you actually find your numbers advantage here. So, and now Darshan's going to continue to push top, and then they'll walk back up there.
I'm actually quite surprised that Team Liquid isn't playing this more aggressively and getting wards in the red side jungle here because that's where CLG is getting their advantage. They have free roam of this area with a little bit of pink ward control as well.
He's fighting Darshan.
Yeah. But they just do not see CLG going back and forth, so they're late to all of the moves. I think Team Liquid's strong enough that they could push to contest those wards.
Oh!
That's a big stun.
Chrono break, back.
It's going to be a push on the other side, though.
Yeah.
Mid lane's getting pushed.
Stix A. Taking it down, Piglet. Oh!
By CLG. Ooh!
Huhi
flashes and does not get the root onto Piglet as Piglet was netting away. Goes for the big play, doesn't get it.
Still trying to fight Lorlo. At least Lorlo can keep 2 in the top lane. They did lose mid, getting themselves stretched thin back and forth, and that's, if you go for by the book, that's CLG's by the book. Once we get this many turrets down, we run the other team through their own jungle back and forth until we have numbers up.
Yeah, and when we think about CLG split push, a lot of people think about, oh, it's Darshan just dominating a lane. No, it's really the whole team going back and forth between these lanes to try and get chip damage on these turrets. He doesn't have to smash that lane to actually play a split push.
Phoenix, he is saying, I can get this pushed up this far and stay alive. Okay, that's enough. He heads back. Level 15 for himself. Pretty much even with what's around the map. Team Liquid hasn't, after the Baron, really been able to step foot out of the base. So we'll see what they can do here as CLG has that worn off. And we're back in.
Yeah, and one of the trickiest things for Phoenix at this stage in the game is if he wants to do anything aggressive on the Blanc, he's running the danger of Huhi getting him with that instant cast Rune Prison and then have them burst him down. I think that's one of the big reasons we haven't seen Phoenix getting the normal LeBlanc poke you would see down as they're pushing these turrets back and forth. So I think what you typically want to do is then throw him into a split push situation, but he's gone with the Ignite so he can't teleport in for the side wave, which is another reason this game is at a bit of a standstill.
Exactly, Jat. And I'm looking at the items here from Huhi. he has the makings of what's either GA or he's going Drop Portal on Rise. I assume it's GA here, so that if Phoenix tries to blow him up, then he just comes back up and he's that stun bot.
I guess that's the strat. I mean, there's a much lower cooldown on the Rise ultimate now. He doesn't get to rotate his spells as much. It has a cap on how many spells he can use during his passive. And, I mean, Piglet's got enough life steal that those Nidalee Spears do not matter anymore. That one does, though. 71 gold for Smithy.
1 more minute on to Dragon. That's number 4, something that kind of has to be stopped by CLG. They do have Baron, they have control of the map, but they have to be forced into a fight here if TL take it. The other thing here is Darshan could actually take control of that top lane and make that Dragon fight very hard for Team Liquid.
If we just look at the map, it is trending in the direction of CLG.
Yep.
They have more wards out. They have a Tracker's Knife.
I think that's the same pink ward that's
Smite.
been there all game, too.
Although Afro just has a Sightstone instead of the upgraded Sightstone item that Matt has, so Matt can technically store 1 more ward.
And this is really good from CLG. You're talking about them splitting across the map. Well, now Phoenix, without TP, has to go to the furthest lane away from that top side and then walk back and forth. You can't do that mid-top anymore as TL. Now it's going to be a numbers advantage if you try to stay here. And I don't think you can even duel Huhi and try to kill him.
And they get another turret on the top side. We talk about CLG split pushing tactics. Like, this isn't a Darshan split push, this is the team split push. And it's all about trying to have pressure in 3 lanes. That's what I talked to Zix about, whether they're still committed to the 1-3-1. He says, no, but we do want pressure in all 3 lanes. And Hui's a little bit of a wizard here. I thought he was going to get ganked, but he's at least able to put up a harass. They're going to lose Dragon 4 for this, though, unless they fight.
Oh, you're a wizard, Huhi, but how good of a wizard?
What spells do you have?
Yeah.
Do they save you?
Dragon
Can you
4.
take Dragon? And TL looks to get into a fight here. Absolute there for the super save. Storm Shield. Monsoon goes out, but it's not going to be enough. And Liquid's actually been forced into a fight they only wanted for a little bit here. Matt's very low. Piglet doing damage from over the wall. Piglet with a triple. Looking for a quadra here, and it's going to be another one as he picks up Darshan. Piglet with a quadra kill.
The funnel in for CLG there, trying to stop the 4th Dragon when Team Liquid had the jump on them for it. They were trying to keep pressure up in all 3 lanes, but they stretched themselves a little bit too thin. And we're 30 minutes in here, and these are substantial death timers, and a Caitlyn who pushes very quickly. This is at least the inhibitor, guys.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to go at least to this inhibitor. They'll get the turret right here. They have a cannon minion in this wave. And looking back at that fight,
it turned into a 1-by-1-by-1.
Oh, it was the trickle in. It's that solo Q. Oh man, we're walking in 1-by-1. 4th Dragon goes over to TL. The threat of a 5th really, really soon. Phoenix chunks out Huhi. Huhi's rather tanky, but they still focus down the Dragon. And then Afro comes in during the Lamb's respite, and he can't actually ulti because it's just going to push Dardoch into the wall.
Yeah.
So he waits until right afterwards, and he gets crit out, and then Piglet goes over the wall.
Afro has almost no impact on the fight. And then I'm not sure what Smithy was hoping to do. He jumps over the wall onto a trap and gets 2-shot by Piglet at the backside of the fight. But honestly, once the protection was gone from Afro, that is a fight that CLG needs to bail from. But they continued to engage, and they paid the price.
I love seeing things like Defiance from Karma, that shield she gives, because then you see Piglet on another level with
another
that
Baron.
movement speed.
This one is even riskier. There's
Out of this
definitely
world.
Team Liquid being able to collapse here.
They don't like what that support can bring to the table. TL can get into that fight very, very fast. CLG pulls off accordingly. And Matt's going to make sure they have vision all the way down as TL starts to write their own here.
Well, he's actually hurting them to the side as they push down mid lane, which has that exposed inhibitor, and now they get to go towards the Baron.
Yeah, here's the thing. After that team fight victory, Team Liquid feeling pretty confident about their team fighting, and for good reason. Piglet with the Bloodthirster as well as the Karma Shields. There's not someone on CLG who can burst him down. So if they set up a proper team fight with Lorlo in the front, I see Team Liquid having a more than 3,000 gold effective advantage coming into this next team fight.
Oh yeah, and Piglet also got early fervor boots too, so he's actually making it so that he's harder to catch in these fights.
Wow.
He's just focusing on that. He's a huge just pile of gold for them right now, and he's been able to deliver all split long. Piglet has been an outstanding AD carry in the late phase, in the team fight phase. It's a different Piglet than what we saw last year, where if things weren't going his way, he wasn't getting those kills, he would tilt a little bit, but now, more focus here. Oh, it's so low! Will that caster minions?
They're going to be able to back
Darshan's
out on
ultimate's
that
down
one.
now, so they can just get it.
Right here, Liquid giving Counterlogic Gaming a taste of their own medicine, running them around the map to their base, back to Baron, and then as they were channeled once again into that blue side, right back to the inhibitor without a problem. Now to top side, as this was practically all prepped before, and Team Liquid open up the map for themselves. A 3,000 gold lead.
And they can place good retreat wards towards the Baron pit. A Kindred at this stage in the game kills Baron so quickly. CLG will have to immediately try and stop this one. Here's
Phoenix
the teleport.
And the traps.
Darshan goes right in on a trap.
Good distortion in, Stixay very low, he's got to be forced out. Huhi gets exhausted as soon as he hits the fight. Dardoch and Lorlo are low in the front in the respite. How can they get out? It's going to be the ult from Lorlo. It puts just enough members in front of them to secure the kill. And now they're on to Huhi. He's trying to dodge snakes left and right. The health bars are dropping, and here comes Phoenix once again. The double distortion is up, and there goes Counter Logic Gaming.
That fight was so good from Team Liquid. They pulled off all of their spells just the way you would want to. Lorlo, the MVP in that fight, with the Poppy ultimate at exactly the right time. CLG tries to re-engage, they get aced, and they lose the game.
Lorlo, rookie of this team as well. This guy just stopped and turned that fight on its head, giving TL this win.
Came in, was having a bit of difficulty in the split for himself. The whole team came together. We're now seeing the culmination of all that work here in the playoffs, and they are going to take game 1 of the series against Counter Logic Gaming.
Yeah, we're a little bit more excited about that one than the players. They know this is a long 5-game series, and there's still plenty of games left. But if we look at this game in particular, Team Liquid was so controlled, and we knew that all the team fights were going to be opt-in and around objectives, and Team Liquid understood that perfectly, and that's how they got this game. Only one death in that entire 34-minute game.
And I want to talk about that top lane. Lorlo, not just MVP of that fight, though, because when we're looking at CLG versus TL, a lot of people are saying Darshan in the top lane, he's going to beat him. Well, it didn't happen this game. They were running them around the map. They were able to avoid that lane for a long time. And then even in the one-on-one, Lorlo held his own, even in gold, didn't get behind in CS, and then he contributed to these fights in immense ways. And this is the guy that we saw, Dardoch. You know, pressure doesn't seem to affect this guy. Matt, he's adapted to it. Lorlo was the question here. How well will he be able to play in these high-stakes matches? And it seems like the meta's favoring his pool, and he's doing a great job against Darshan today.
It was. We saw this guy come into the split, Lorlo, that is on a few champions, and we're saying, when can he kind of get off these few champions and make an impact rather than kind of be a tank and disappear from the top lane if there's a swap, right? And the things that the rookies have done across this team and the coaches have done with this team is showing itself now.
Yeah, it's been a long split for both of these teams, but specifically for Team Liquid because they had so much to overcome at the very beginning with a very poor start. But this game, you're seeing the results of a lot of that growth. Lorlo not being outmatched by Darshan, the team working around him, understanding Phoenix's role. Even though he was on an assassin, he was still playing a very lane-dominant style, and then letting Piglet carry the game, right? He farmed, he constantly had pressure, he was always positioned perfectly, and that's what leads to a 12-1 victory.
It's something they do much more with Piglet now. They're so much more confident in him. He's much more confident in the team.
Piglet is good every single game.
We saw this at the end of last season for him, and it's really coming through this season.
Yeah, and I think TL fixed one of their big problems was they didn't have patience. They were very impatient. They would take fights that were not proper.
We need a lot of patience for this game.
This game was very patient. The complete opposite of the spectrum.
All right, now for a full breakdown of that Liquid win, we're going to check in with our analyst desk.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Game 1 going over to Team Liquid, and they were just hitting on it right there, that there was a lot of inaction in that game. For the majority of the game, we saw very little in terms of team fights and brawls. It was a lot of map play and farming. So opinions there, as we talked about the stylistic differences of these teams, who does that necessarily favor?
Yeah, Team Liquid for sure. CLG was like, hey, just let Kindred get her sated, and then we'll fight. And then, I mean, I'm sure everybody that's watching knows how it goes when somebody gets sated for free. Yeah, that stuff's not pretty.
Yeah, and honestly, you can look at sort of both the champions played and the items built on them, and even just beyond the Kindred getting sated point, like, again, it favors Liquid. You've got Hurricane, i.e. Caitlyn. Like, if you can buy a Hurricane and Infinity Edge on any ranged champion, you're going to out-DPS any other ranged champion not named Azir, basically. Like, that is the build. That is how he's going to hard carry everything. And stealing away Jenna or not doesn't stop Caitlyn from doing that kind of damage, especially when you've got to go, like, third item MR on this Kalista because you're afraid of LeBlanc. Like, well, surprise, like, guess what happens in the DPS checks here? Then, of course, hey, guess what? You know, sated Kindred helps a ton as well. The fact that Kindred did so well despite facing a Nidalee who's supposed to win the early jungle and then didn't. Like, all these factors keep helping Liquid.
Well, so Azale, that kind of opens up the question then for champion selects, because we saw that really suspect Tristana ban come in third from Team Liquid, which the casters were mentioning either points to this is something that CLG's been practicing a lot and they got wind of, or this is something, it's a throwaway ban, rather, in order to keep more OPs on the table. And they picked up the likes of the Kindred and the Poppy, you know, because of that, because of how many OPs were left on the table. I mean, is this something that CLG now has to be aware of, that the Team Liquid's willing to throw throwaway bans in order to pick up stronger champions?
I mean, I think it's always something that you're going to try to keep in mind, but at the same time, I think that a lot of that game came down much more to the play and to the mistakes that CLG made rather than just the pick ban. So I think, you know, you look at that game, it was basically 3 major points. It was that awful ace at Dragon, it was the given away Baron that you know, CLG was able to sneak, and then it was that last Baron fight, right? There's basically only 3 moments in that game that really mattered. And you also look, you know, you have to look back to Smithy. He has to hold down the Kindred, right? This is something that, as a team, you need to do this, actually. It's not just on Smithy, but as Nidalee, you should be bullying this guy around. And you shouldn't be letting him take free Rift Heralds, free, like all the Scuttles for free, all the Dragons for free. I mean, this is something that you need to be aware of and you need to play around. And they didn't play around their champion's strengths. And when they did have the team fights, they just looked out of sorts.
Yeah, CLG on your screens now. I mean, given the fact that there were only, as you mentioned, 3 major elements to this game, that would hopefully point to the fact that they're easily identifiable and they can make the necessary changes going in to the next game. I do want to hit on one of the points that you mentioned. It's our replay 30 minutes into the game. Quadra kill for Piglet around the Dragon. A suspect engage by CLG.
Yeah, so there's a major issue when you're facing eventually a Caitlyn near a wall with all summoners up. So at first it's like Huhi trying to distract because they're going for the TP play. Everyone is trying to come down the map as fast as possible, but CLG is actually slower than Liquid are going to be if you look at the minimap where all the icons are. So Huhi, you know, he gets started off the ulti, and Afro looked for a backwards ult. He ran in to try to monsoon out the Kindred, but ends up just being out of position. So now there's a free kill on the jungle, or a free kill on support, free kill on the mid laner as well, and then Piglet no longer has any threat on him. The first person who shows up gets a flash over the wall, net over the wall, whatever, burn, summon, or heal. You know, there's just no longer damage being dealt. Like, Ryze cannot solo kill a backline. Like, if Echo was there, okay, those two can go for it. He and Darshan could go make some plays, but like, Kalista has 550 range, doesn't go any higher than that. Like, she's not going to help with any of this. Like, Piglet is just going to be fine kiting back and being safe. And sure enough, he was, with the Janna already dead.
And, I mean, we kind of have to call it like it is. It's like, not only was Huhi trying to go in 1v3, which I think was already too aggressive, he's on the opposite side of the Dragon, right? Maybe if he's on top side of the Dragon pit and he can come in from there and poke away at them, and Afro doesn't have to just like then suicide in as well to try to save him. I mean, not only did he kill himself, he killed Afro too, because Afro had to try and go in and save him, and it just put his team in a position where it's like, you know, that fight is lost. It doesn't matter what your teammates do at that point.
Yeah, I think, honestly, I think what Huhi did was really good, and I think Dardak actually was really hard on himself because he blew that Kindred ult way too early, and they actually would have lost the fight. But Afro, yeah, okay, I love Afro. He
wanted to monsoon him back.
Yeah,
he wanted to monsoon him out of
I think if Afro just played it slower, they would have won that team fight. They could have had it.
Oh, interesting. We just saw Team Liquid on the screen there. They're obviously going to feel confident coming out of that first victory. I mean, the last point I want to hit here is the fact that Team Liquid didn't really seem pressured in that game. And I'm going to come back to you, Kiwi, because I think you were hitting on the points that, like, for CLG in this series, they're going to have to be the more proactive team. Because it seemed like Team Liquid, given the fact that they're willing to have these 5v5 fights late with gold even, they're going to be happy to play lane swaps and just farm up for 25 minutes every single time.
Yeah, I mean, I think Teal will do fine even in non-lane swaps. It's just maybe they're just kind of scared to make plays. CLG is kind of scared to make plays. Like, they're not sure when they want to fight. I think they really need to identify that maybe before the game even starts, and like, you know, let's hit this dragon, or let's just hit them when I get this item. So they really need some regrouping.
Well, they have a few more minutes to do that regrouping. We're going to step away while the teams load back onto the stage for Game 2 between Liquid and CLG. Don't go anywhere. The NALCS Spring Playoffs continue after this.
I think the fans are on our side. I'm not sure. Maybe it's because we give away like 20 free shirts every time. Maybe because we have like 1.5K shirts at home.
Team Liquid still not there.
TP in from Lorlo. He wants to eject him. Oh, It's rented on the way out. They say thank you very much and bye-bye.
Pick us out of the fight. Pick us out of the fight. I'm coming back in.
And now they're on to Huhi. He's trying to dodge mistakes left and right. The health bars are dropping. And here comes Phoenix once again. The double distortion is up. And there goes Counter Logic Gaming. And they are going to take game 1 of the series against Counter Logic Gaming.